That was actually entertaining. I was kind of worried because mixed media project about a collection of dudes. Hello fellow anime geeks and welcome to another impressions video on my quest to try every anime series coming out in this 2021 winter anime season. As usual, I'm organizing my thoughts by answering these 4 questions, and today I'm talking about the anime installment of the mixed media project, Project SCARD, PRAETER no KIZU. The mount tags are action and superpower, and as usual, I was a bit apprehensive about this one because I tend to think that mixed media projects are less of a standalone narrative and more of auxiliary material to deliver pretty visuals to people who are already fans of the franchise. But this show actually does have a decently interesting concept and world. I wouldn't go as far as calling the anime installment of this an action anime, because the interesting, cool action plotline that they introduced in the first episode quickly devolved into dramatic interactions between these standard pretty guys that happen to have superpowers. In fact, they are so standardly good looking, it felt like they just used the same attractive face type over and over again, which made things very confusing for me in the beginning. What? It was a different person? The anime is technically a sequel story to that of the drama CD collection that was released in spring of 2020, and like many mixed media projects, there's a manga that was released in the fall of that year. That manga is being released in the magazine Shonen Magazine Edge, which frankly I was surprised about because, like I said, this doesn't really feel like an action shonen, and since the anime component is the only component that I'm familiar with, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is a sufficiently interesting pretty boy collection fanservice anime. This cool setting and premise remind me of the anime s.CRY.ed in that in both of these, there's this lawless district that's sort of sectioned off from the rest of this futuristic world, and there's a select few with special powers that decide to protect the weak populations from these warring factions. All the while, the mainland police are indiscriminately interfering with the affairs of this district and end up capturing our heroic protagonist. On a side note, why is it that in all of these pretty boy anime, the rival is always this like beautiful, mysterious, white-haired character with an arrogant flair? Presumably, the lawlessness in this district is the reason for the Latin word in the title, praetor, if I'm interpreting the allusion to the legal term praetor legem correctly. And I also think that the use of the word kizu in the title is pretty clever. It's like a nice reference to the powers and the new world that our protagonist is joining, because kizu means scar, as InuYasha tells me, and in this world, the people that have these powers are called the SCARD. They all have unique powers, monikers, and tattoos that match the mythological beasts that have granted these divine powers upon them, so that tattoo acts kind of like a binding contract between the two parties. Unfortunately, we don't really get to see much of this cool process because we don't follow our protagonist's journey in this world. Much like in a lot of pretty boy and girl animes, what we decide to do is actually just meet more pretty boys and girls. There's also magic bullets and rituals in a cobbled together magic system that I still don't understand. I have to say though, despite all of the obligatory mixed media fanservice scenes like guy takes a shower scene, or I'm drunk kabedon scene, or the unexpected adorable gap moe scene, there is a very distinct, unique feel to this anime, mostly due to the fact that they have very creatively blended really realistically textured CG backgrounds and 2D characters. So, is it worthwhile? Well, for me personally, that's a no. I have a really hard time taking mixed media project anime components seriously as standalone narratives, especially when they feel kind of fanservice-y like this did. And the narrative was not only kind of like a simple game storyline, but the dialogue felt like it was straight out of an old-timey radio show. I mean, all of the exposition is spoken out loud, and all of the action scenes felt like they were mostly represented by sound effects. It was like watching Encounters with the Silver Shroud, but set to jazzy music and fancy CG backgrounds. And in fact, before I even realized that this was a separate story from the drama CDs, I actually thought that they had just reused those recordings. But look, all of that being said, I don't think this is actually that bad. It's certainly not a 5.5. And if you consider it more of a fan servicey pretty boy collection anime instead of an action anime, it's actually one of the better ones of that kind that I have seen. So I think that you might actually like this one if you are into like cool guy characters or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, on that note, I'll catch you in the next video. I love how everyone's like, we, the such and such, them, the such and such. Like, thanks for explaining who everyone is. Exposition in a bad guy's monologue. More exposition. Another introductory sentence. That's when we, the police, come in.